Good evening, everyone. The November 15th, 2016 business meeting of the Newark Board of Education is now called to order.
Good evening. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and JSA 1046 et sec, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising in the Star Ledger, El Nuevo Coquí, Haiti Progress, and Luz Americana newspapers, and by distribution to the administrative offices of the Newark Public Schools. A copy of the meeting notice was also forwarded to City Hall for posting. This is a board business meeting for Tuesday night, November 15, 2016.
Thank you. Please rise for the flag salute. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Chair Baskerville Richardson.
Present.
Ms. Carter. Vice Chair Von Secca.
Present.
Ms. Gaddy. Mr. Jackson.
Present.
Mr. Lewis. Ms. Owens. Ms. Padilla.
Present.
Mr. Salinger. Quorum is present.
Thank you. We will now have item 4 on the agenda, which is the committee chairperson's report. And okay. Excuse me, Ms. Gelber, Ms. Carter said she was going to call in, did she? Okay, so, no, I just wanted to know if she was, no, I just wanted to know if she was going to be prepared to do her report. So, the first report this evening will be the Operations Committee, and that report will be given by Board Member Donald Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank
Good
you,
evening.
Madam Chair. Operations Committee meeting convened on November 16th, 2016. I apologize. No, that was the 9th.
We met on
The 9th, I apologize. 9th, the meeting started at 5:15. All members were present except for Ms. Gaddy. She came via phone. First agenda item discussed was with Mr. Leone with the changes to the use of school facilities policy. We all committee chair, and I believe board members as well should have received the update. In that discussion, we talked about neighboring school districts and their policies in terms of usage fees and other issues with regards to leasing the facilities. There is a joint committee that has been working on the new policy encompassed with President Baskerville and Vice President Ms. Fonseca. The new policy has a user-friendly application, insurance requirements, and guidance for third parties, a hold harmless agreement, and a new fees page. All required documents are to be submitted 14 business days prior to the start of the activity through the principal of the facility being requested. This new policy has a completely new process with step-by-step directions. There are no affidavits required. In December, a training regarding this new policy and its related changes will be provided to principals and school support staff responsible for completing permits. We look forward to the monitoring of the new policy during the next few months. We are satisfied with these changes and ask for the board's full support. That basically says the same thing. Next, we received a CUSAC update. We received our scores. We had a comprehensive review. We are going to transition. We are now in the transition stage to receive personnel. Governance, we are high performing but not consistent according to the state. Every year we have to do our statement of assurance. This also was discussed in several committees. Security, we had a As the community knows, we've had quite a few incidents surrounding the George Washington Carver school. In fact, there was a community meeting the same day with regards to the school lockdown. There had been approximately 3 lockdowns. There was an accidental gun discharge in the area by law enforcement. There was, to my understanding and to the committee's understanding, a miscommunication that led to a second lockdown at the building. And the third lockdown was a legitimate shooting that was passing through the school's area. No one in the school was negatively affected or involved in the incident, but for safety precautions, the school was locked down. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Jackson on the Operations Committee report? Is there a motion to accept the report?
Motion.
Ms. Von Seca, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Gaddy. This is a motion to accept the Operations Committee report of November 9th, 2016. It's delivered by Mr. Jackson. It's moved by Vice Chair Von Seca, second by Ms. Gaddy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Report accepted.
Next, we'd like to have the Family and Community Engagement Committee report by Chairperson Ms. Gaddy.
Thank you. We had our meeting on the 7th of November. Our meeting was called to order at 5:33 p.m. Vice Chair Dashay Carter was present, and Board Member Leah Owens. Tay Padilla was absent. Staff was in attendance. We started off our meeting talking about the Board Code of Conduct, which Madam Chair, as you instructed us to do, to kind of complete that Code of Conduct, just to inform back that it has not been done in all the committees. In our committee, it was requested that Lizzie send it back out again for review and that we discuss it at our next retreat. Agenda item number 3, strategic plan. Margarita shared that there was a Google document that had been created to collect all the PTAs and PTOs information. I made a statement that, it is November and that we should have a list of all the current PTAs and PTOs that is present in our district, and that the CESs should have that list produced. We had a presentation by Senior Manager Noreen Noel Brooks, who also requested parent volunteer information. She discussed school-level engagement in her cohorts of schools that consisted of the Central Ward and the South Ward. One of the challenges is that she feels is surfacing is GED preparation for parents. She said a lot of parents are in need of GED, and so Board Member Owens and myself suggested that they reach out to the leaguers, OYN, Urban League, NCC, and that we would reach out to the Central Ward Councilwoman to assist in the Central Ward. Noreen briefly discussed evaluation and monitoring tools to support the work of the CESs. She explained that they focus on common themes and threads to support coaching and aligning these to the deliverables of the monthly reports and events submitted by the CES. Board Member Gaddy and Owens advised that they would like to see reports of senior managers, the CES, to check in so we can get a feel of the ones that are done correctly and those that are not. There was a conversation regarding the Hawthorne Avenue School, which resurfaced. Ms. Noreen indicated that the parent room will be reestablished and that the principal will be developing a schedule of hours that the room will be available and operated. Board Member Owens reiterated that we need a CES explicitly for parents and community engagement, and particularly at that school. There was a lot of conversation around the CES assessments, evaluations. At this moment, there's an evaluation rubric that principals complete. However, there's no room for FACE to provide feedback. We were concerned about that. We don't want to get to the end of the year and not have a way to really assess what the CESs have been doing at their schools. We all agree that there's a lot of work to do around standardizing and norming the evaluation, and assessment of the CES role is critical. Board Member Gaddy referenced another key milestone, which was the refreshing of the district's website in correlation to parents not receiving information. Noreen shared that some schools have the Remind app to better communicate with parents. Paul chimed in and advised that we should have the homepage refreshed soon, and added that a low number of schools are using the Remind app, specifically Brick Avon and Peshon. He acknowledged that there are some challenges, and we are working to better manage and hold schools accountable for posting. Board Member Gaddy suggested that the CES can spend an hour to update the website. There was, Margarita gave her report via some PowerPoint slides. She updated us on the CES. There are 49 titles as we speak. The RID CES has been replaced due to illness. She discussed the Affordable Care Act, the copy of the documents that went out to community members and was shared to some of the parents. She talked briefly about the community talks, and she also discussed the participation of the members in the training sessions. There was an ad hoc conversation regarding the death incidents at Brick Peshon and Brick Avon. And so that was of some concern to all of the board members as well as the staff. Agenda 5, Strategic Plan, Priority 3. Paul had an overall, we are in conversations with FACE, Contact Center, and Data and Communication Offices to come up with an alternate solution to the password reset. I expressed some concerns in regards to robocall system and how long it takes to contact information to be updated or removed. Some parents are were still concerned that they get calls from the previous schools, their children are at other schools. I was still concerned about the parent portal letter. It took me 2 weeks to just get that situation resolved, and that's a turnoff to a lot of the parents. They want to be engaged, but if that system is not working, then they can't keep up with the grades of their students, and so we definitely are working on that. We discussed that there should be an automatic password reset function like other districts have, other schools, so parents don't have to wait 2 or so weeks to have access to their child information. I'm skipping around a little bit. Title I, Conference Planning, was agenda number 8. We discussed the run of the show. Board members shared that they would like to take part in the general overview session, 5 to 7 minutes on the first 2 days, not necessarily to have an actual workshop because it's half-a-day sessions. We don't want to eat up the time that the parents should have going to workshops, and so we suggested that we can make some presentations, 5 minutes just on day 1 and day 2, and then on that third day where it's an all-day, then we can have an actual community engagement session where the parents and the participants could come in and have a conversation with members of the committee. Marguerite also discussed some detail of the Title I conference in relation to parent meetings. She discussed that the NPS subject experts leading the workshops and exhibitors that will be supporting. She shared some parenting meeting dates as well as parent-led workshops and 3E workshops in 3 different languages. I know, Donald. So agenda item number 10, I'm going to skip because Donald's timing me over here. Overall, some of the board members expressed some discontent with the following that related to our listening session. Space was not conducive to real engagement. The logistics of the space was not organized. The food was not in the same room. And so what happened, we had to kind of, when parents were eating, we had to then kind of navigate them to an auditorium. Also, once the students performed, a lot of parents who had been there for a while, after the students performed, they left. There was concern that there was too many charter school parents there, not enough public school parents. Board Member Carter expressed a disconnect between offices, the idea of passing the buck. She felt as though the FACE and Board of Ed wasn't communicating with the ASUPs, in particular ASUP Glover, that each office is, what is each office doing to support one another and to work in partnership. Board Member Owens advised that we can use interns and volunteers and/or city advocates to call parents regarding the meetings to follow up. Board Member Carter said we need to revisit the conversation of what we're doing as a committee at the next meeting. Paul stated we should table this conversation for further discussion until Margarita, because Margarita had to leave, so we all agreed that we would then follow back up with that information. Our meeting was adjourned at 8:14. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Gaddy? Motion to accept the report?
Fonseca, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Jackson, this motion to accept the Family Community Engagement Committee report from November 7th, 2016 is delivered by Ms. Gaddy. All in favor? Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries. Report accepted.
Thank you. Next report will be program and instruction report. Chairperson, Ms. Owens.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, this is a report of the Program and Instruction Committee. Chairperson Leah Owens, Vice Chairperson Dashe Carter. The meeting was held on Wednesday, November 11th, 2016. It began at 6:13 p.m. and adjourned at 10 p.m. Board members attending, Leah Owens, Dashe Carter, and Kim Gaddy via phone. Board members absent, Crystal Fonseca. Administrators attending, Dr. Kayla Perkins, Executive Director, is that me? Director of Early Childhood, Nana Fusuma, Executive Director of Special Education, Carolyn Granado, Assistant Superintendent Erskine Glover, Brad Haggerty, Edward Hugh, and others were Elizabeth Gelber, Robert Clark, and Kate Fletcher. Agenda items discussed. The main topics: Opportunity Youth Network, Early Childhood Resolution, Special Education Inclusion Pilot, South Ward Community Schools Initiative, focus on Brick Avon, Gateway to College, update on Newark Evening, ID cards and SAT administration, enrollment update, CUSAC update, 4 resolutions, 3 under Finance and Operation, the 2017 ESEA NCLB Consolidated Revised Application Resolution, New Jersey School Improvement Grant, Cohort 4, Malcolm X Shabazz, to accept funds and affirm program purposes amended, request to transfer preschool education aid, carry over funds for early childhood classroom supplies, non-instructional equipment, and additional staffing, and 1 under program and instruction, authorization of district field trips. Smaller topics were policies, gender identity and expression, Amistad, district policy for assembly speakers, external version of the school summaries. Important points of information. Opportunity Youth Network. Robert Clark presented to the committee about the Opportunity Youth Network, the Re-Engagement Center, and Lead Charter School. Opportunity Youth Network overall manages a portfolio of services and research to affect policy for overage undercredited youth. Its purpose is to scale what is working at Youth Build Newark. It was recognized that Newark Leadership Academy was not meeting expectations, mainly because of difficulties managing the partnership between Youth Build Newark and NPS. A PQS for providers was published to find sites in each ward with a positive reputation serving its population. The partners in the network are La Casa de Don Pedro in the north, New Community Corporation in the central, though historically has not done workforce training for young people. Leaders for Life in the south, there are few job training programs in the south. Urban League of Essex County in the west, and Rutgers Team Gateway also in the central. Each agency was asked to join in a series of meetings to put systems in place. The groups came together and agreed to the same accountability goals, which are the same as the Workforce Investment Board system for city workforce development and job training. Funding comes from the city, the district, and private capital. Opportunity Youth Network is seeking to organize it all, creating a series of stakeholders that can inform the district and also provide additional transparency to what is happening in the district. On the community side, there is a value add to a private-public partnership that provides checks and balances on the district policies. Opportunity Youth Network will create an advocacy strategy to help young people who otherwise may not buy into the system. It will create a youth development certification for youth who will help serve other youth. An example is the Newark Street Academy. It has only been funded for a year, so Opportunity Youth Network wants to embed the Newark Street Academy into its network. The Re-Engagement Center will help the many students who do not fit the overage undercredited profile find their way back into comprehensive high schools. Lead Charter School is a hybrid of job training and education for overage undercredited youth. Over 40% of students at comprehensive high schools are overage undercredited. It has been approved for the 2017-2018 school year and will be the first of its kind in New Jersey of its kind. For many young people, after they graduate from a program, the year after is when they struggle. No other program has a fifth year. Lead Charter School will start with 92 students and have a max of 250 students. For now, it is only for Newark students, but has plans to become regional due to the transiency of this population of youth. Early childhood resolution. The request was made to transfer $1.4 million in preschool education aid carryover funds for playgrounds at 4 locations, Newark Day and 3 NPS early childhood centers, to provide snacks for preschool programs and for additional staffing for a full PIRT, which is preschool intervention and referral team, in order to lower caseload and additional support for the leadership of early childhood centers in the position of manager. The playgrounds have to involve city planning, so it is not always possible to accept donations. The district is working on a long-range facilities plan regarding playground and outside options for students. This is funding that was not spent in the past, to which the district still has access. It was recognized that hiring center managers is a short-term solution and that the Office of Early Childhood is looking for ways to work this position into the regular budget, including by increasing pre-K enrollment so that more funds are coming to the district from the state. Special Education Inclusion Pilot. New Jersey Coalition for Inclusive Education is a nonprofit that assists schools to prepare and train teachers on accommodations and serving students in various settings in the general education classroom. They are located here in Newark, but have also done a great deal of work in Maryland. This organization will provide 1 staff developer for every 4 schools. The district has a comprehensive strategy for serving students with special needs. Over 40% of students in self-contained classrooms are classified as learning disability mild or learning disability severe. Many of the students classified as learning disability mild should be enrolled in general education classrooms because the self-contained classrooms are doing them a disservice. For learning disability severe students where there is a neurological issue, the district needs to create a continuum of special programs and settings across the city. For example, students with autism can go from McKinley to Central High School and American History High School, and in the East Ward, there is a program in South Street modeled on the Alpine School in Paramus. CPAC, Special Education Parent Advisory Council, wants a second example of this program. For students with behavior disorders, the district will provide options for these students across a wide range of schools, including magnet programs. There will be a program at Arts High School to provide the students with a choice. The arts have the capability to engage these students. It will start small with a 9th grade program with 12 students to start and then add 12 each year. The goal is to have the students equally represented across the city. For cognitively impaired students, there is a need for a program that is something in between Eastside and JFK. The district is looking at a magnet school to serve these students in a somewhat more restrictive environment than what Eastside provides. It is in the discussion phase potentially for next year. South Ward Community Schools Initiative. An update was given on progress at Brick Avon. From an instructional aspect, vertical and horizontal grade meetings are being held at the school. Brick Avon has shown significant growth on SRI data and interim data. Approximately 45% of students met proficiency. From a student support aspect, there has been more of an intentional conversation on who is doing what to make sure that we are connecting students with the right organizations to provide the needed resources. The goal is to create a prescription plan for each student. Various events have been held at the school. Parent night was well attended. The summary document and needs assessment for all 5 schools still were not made available. An update on partnerships and contracts was provided for Brick Avon, but it did not distinguish between organizations getting paid and organizations getting leveraged. Another round of needs assessments is being completed because the initial one did not include enough stakeholders. A student and parent survey is being finalized with the goal of having it ready for distribution at Back to School Night on November 29th. Gateway to College. Gateway to College is a program that targets students who are reading on grade level and have dropped out. The district has had a partnership with Essex County College for a number of years now to provide the program. A major concern is that the district is not getting very good data in terms of the success of students who attend and will need to make a decision by March about the future of the program. It was asked how recruitment is done. Recruitment could be improved, but generally there are not many students identified who fit into the population to be served. It is being considered to become a part of the Opportunity Youth Network. The committee also had discussion to determine if the students currently a part of the program will be able to finish and graduate. Update on Newark Evening. A meeting has been set for November 17th to address questions and concerns from the October meeting. Most of the concerns were about program improvements. There is not dedicated funding for adult education. The district has checked with the state and they do not have dedicated funding for this. However, the district can look into other opportunities, for example, for workforce development. There are daytime and nighttime programs. The daytime program provides high school students with credit recovery. ID cards and SAT administration. Each school was contacted to address issues with ID creation. Of the 4 schools that identified one issue or another, they all had a backup system in place, which means they have a different software to generate an alternative ID. It was confirmed that a sheet of paper can be validated by your school to count as valid entry. All 193 students registered for the SAT were consulted to make sure they were ready to take the test. There were 3 schools that had students who needed IDs. Follow-up was done with each of them. In one instance, a Shabazz student was turned away from St. Benedict's. The district will follow up with this student. Enrollment. The committee was provided with a review of the October 14th official enrollment data, which included a district-wide summary by demographic factors and enrollment by school versus the initial projections. We also received enrollment by school as of November 9th. Data points that stuck out. Eastside High is over-enrolled by 240 students, specifically 135 students in the freshman class. Central High is over-enrolled by 87 students. Of the 6 comprehensive high schools, 4 are under-enrolled and 2 are over-enrolled. Of the 11 magnet schools, 2 are over-enrolled and 9 are under-enrolled. The district plans to use the enrollment data to refine the projection model so that the budgeting process will be even more accurate in the coming year. A list of all the classes at Central High and the number of students enrolled was provided to the committee. 18 classes have more than 35 students enrolled. That's 4 to 5% of classrooms. Committee members asked about legal class size limits and which classes were self-contained classrooms. Many concerns were expressed by this committee regarding enrollment. Magnet school administrators are concerned that the lower criteria for students are posing challenges for students. Therefore, magnet schools should be able to reinstate the selection criteria of the past when they had more power in the decision-making process. Parents are not being informed about their students' positions on the wait list. The district committed to developing more explicit written guidance in policies and practices. External version of the school summaries. In an effort to strengthen transparency and accountability around school data, in the next month, the district would like to share school summaries that will be available on the website and shared via community engagement specialists. Such information as average section size, the budget for each school, and test scores would be included. The committee expressed interest in including information on school climate and culture, not just numbers. CUSAC update. Separate committees will be convened for each area of CUSAC to prepare for the district performance review, and the statement of assurance will be presented to the board to vote on in December. Conclusions reached. The class sizes at Central High School are unacceptable. It is imperative that the district find a solution that will provide a thorough and efficient education for the students enrolled here. Nonetheless, it must be made clear that these students have suffered an irreparable harm to their education. Ongoing issues still under consideration. Enrollment inquiries still to be answered from last month. Do any of the schools that offer pre-K not have a wait list? A list of unique numbers of students who are on the wait list rather than a cumulative number of instances. Also from last month, regarding organizations that partner with the district, this committee continues to express the need for the development of guidelines to define a partnership and a process to evaluate the effectiveness of the partner. Also from last month, a request was made for the needs assessment of each school within the South Fork Community School Initiative, also the summary document, the lead agency contracts, and coordinator contracts. Information requests from this meeting still to be filled. Comparison of district enrollment and demographic data between October 2015 and October 2016, a deep dive on 9th grade at Eastside. Why were there so many more students enrolled than what was projected? Do all of these students live in the East Ward? An update on the wait lists, identification of self-contained classrooms at Central High School, information on online courses offered at Central, regulations on class size guidance for different classes as per the state, update on the residency audit. This will be added to the December agenda. How do we get to find out how to get resources out of old Science High for new Science High? Where will there still be an enrollment committee for George Washington Carver and other schools? Can we have a presentation on iReady? What are other resources we are providing to that school? How are we communicating IEPs to parents when it comes to the student being transferred into a new school? Recommendations. The Newark Board of Education should explore the creation of a district policy for assembly speakers. It is the committee chair's recommendation that the Newark Public Schools District should make a commitment to building smaller class sizes into the projection model for next year's budget. It is the committee chair's recommendation that the Newark Board of Education vote yes to all of the resolutions presented to the Program and Instruction Committee that are up for vote this month. That's it.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Board Chair Owens? I'm sorry, for Committee Chair Owens. Are there any questions?
Board Chair, I actually had a question that I didn't get to ask in the committee and follow up on. In terms of Newark Leadership Academy, I'd asked a question to Mr. Clark, but it was told to me that Mr. Haggerty would be better to answer, and then I forgot when he did come in front of us. But what is the future, particularly also because I noticed in the enrollment information that was provided to us that it was projected to have 0 students in the 9th grade class, and we ended up with 2. So what's the future of the Newark Leadership Academy?
Sure. Let me give a little a quick history. Newark Leadership Academy is in its 6th year of existence. It underwent a pretty significant reassessment last spring, and that was a result of enrollments that weren't hitting some of our targets. We had targeted roughly 125 students at the school, and we're getting in the high 80s, low 90s, that sort of number. And as you know, that's a student population whose attendance is a particular challenge, lots of chronically absent students, so you might have 50 students on site in a given day. One of the challenges we recognized was that when the school was initially developed, it was developed with a lead partner, Youth Build, with whom the district has worked consistently over the past couple of years. But we never really fulfilled what that partnership should look like. And so fundamentally recommitted to a deeper, richer, more formalized partnership with Youth Build. And why we felt that was a good move was, if you did a quick comparison of retention, attendance, enrollment at the 2 transfer schools last year, the higher of the 2, Fast Track had higher numbers in all of those compared to NLA. And Fast Track, while they both had a technical partnership, Fast Track had really adopted more of the Youth Build principles. So fundamentally, our belief is to double down on the Youth Build partnership, not to abandon it. And in terms of sort of what prior years look like, I would say it was an inadequate delivery and sort of that partnership. So that said, we are firmly of the belief that the Youth Build partnership is the way to go. We had a series of trainings this summer with both principals and with the Youth Build staff to be able to leverage that. Enrollment is up this year at NLA, and so we feel good about its prospects for the future.
But in terms of the ninth grade class, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm saying what I saw. It was projected to have 0 students.
Yeah, keep in mind the student population at
what's that?
the transfer schools are overage, undercredited.
Right.
Students who've been in high school for 2 years, or at least 16 years
Okay.
of age, or at least 2 years behind basically in credits. So in some cases, how we have coded students, you might not have any ninth graders purely because of their age.
Okay.
Yet if you were to look at their credits, they might actually, be categorized as ninth graders because they have 0 credits or 10 credits or what have you. So that's why.
Okay, thank you. And then also I know for Board Member Carter, she had the question during the meeting that I put down, will there still be an enrollment committee? And so I just wanted to make sure I asked that question since she wasn't able to be here this evening. I'm not sure who will
So who
answer
you
that.
asking that question to?
Okay, well, I guess to Board Chair, I'm not sure because she asked a question in the meeting, but we weren't able to get an answer.
So, will there still be an enrollment committee? So, based on the fact that right now we are in the veto process legally, and we do not have a ruling yet from the commissioner based on our vote last month and the veto request by the district and our response to that. The superintendent can certainly respond, but my understanding at this point is that the formal committee that we were in the process of discussing is not moving forward at this time, but that the district is looking at the enrollment situation. Is there something you would like to add?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Ms. Owens? Is there a motion?
Who's it, Ms. Gaddy and Mr. Jackson? It's a motion to accept the P&I committee report as delivered by Ms. Owens. The date of the committee meeting was 11/7/2016, moved by Ms. Gaddy and second by Mr. Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion passes. Report accepted.
Our next committee report will be the Personnel Committee report by Ms. Carter. She is not here, but I believe that she is on the phone and prepared to give that report. Are we able to amplify that for everyone?
Good evening.
Hi, Ms. Carter.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, so the personnel policy.
we can hear you clearly now.
Okay, the personnel policy committee took place on November 10th. It was called to order at 5:17. Those in attendance were Larissa Schamberg, Sarah Young, Leah Owens, myself, Donald Jackson by phone, Andrea, Loretta, Elizabeth, and Phil Salinger was absent. So a few of the items that we talked about, the first one was principal appointments. The committee discussed the meetings held at both Whitman, which was on November 1st, and McKinley, which was on November 7th. Those meetings were to move the interim principal to permanent status. Both of those meetings looked different. One of the meetings was a smaller group of individuals picked to represent the school in the committee, and the other was a larger meeting involving staff, community, organizations, and families. As a committee, we discussed how we want this process to look next year and what would be the best way. The remaining meetings for the principals appointed this summer will be at university. The date, we haven't been given that yet. And we also discussed the leadership change that recently occurred at George Washington Carver. Then we went over the vacancy tracker. There are currently 57 instructional vacancies across all the schools. The office says that they're still going to do a push to try to fill those. The next big push would be in December when the December grads come out of school. They have done a job fair at William Patterson, and they hope to create more job fairs at local universities to get teachers to come teach in our district. We also discussed why we received so many resignations after the start of the year. Some of these resignations were a mixture. Some of them were due to the teacher not being a good fit for the district, and they determined that early on, so they decided to leave. The talent office has been following up with teachers who are resigning in the mid-year to begin to gather the data more systematically. We discussed why exactly are they leaving, and what if they're going to other districts, is it because we're not competitive with pay? So it was discussed that we're competitive at different levels, and so we're trying to see where we begin to pay, where we pay higher than other districts, if we can then go and try to strategize to get some teachers from those districts. The committee also discussed questions that were specific to vacancies at Central High School. The committee requested an update at the December meeting on the specific situation at Central High School, at which time the Assistant Superintendent Gregory, we were told, would join us and give us that update. We also reviewed the separations. There have been 60 separations since our last committee meeting. There was also an update on the personnel transition meeting. Since our last meeting, the district and the board had one personnel transition meeting. The next big step within that process is for us to bring in both Jersey City and Patterson to speak with them and review their materials. We also talked about the CES racial demographics. There have been some concerns that there aren't any African American community engagement specialists. The data shows that there are 62.5% African Americans, 27% Hispanics, and 10% white. We also spoke about the leave process and tracker. Andrea reviewed the process for applying for FMLA, which is the family medical leave, at North Public Schools. The committee reviewed the information compiled for all the teachers who were in the continuous leave, which outlines positions that we were using substitutes for. They have posted to the leave replacement position, which is a teacher to cover long-term leave that may impact the instruction in the schools. We also talked about personal leave. I asked for clarity as to who determined the personal leave. It was explained to us that the principal at the school has the autonomy to grant a person a personal leave, which is not paid by the district, and they don't have benefits for that time. I also asked for what exactly was the role of the assistant superintendent, so we went over that. It was said that they have the same role that the assistant superintendents had previously. I asked for clarification because that wasn't my understanding. It was said that on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, the assistant superintendent meet with principals and conduct walkthroughs, and they evaluate the principals. We also talked about the manager for the district and charter school policy operation role. An update was given on that hiring status. 16 people applied for that role. 3 people were interviewed. As of the time of the meeting, 1 candidate was at the reference check stage and would make the offer early next week based on the references. I expressed that I was frustrated because we were not included in that process, and it is my understanding, and a board member could correct me later if I'm wrong, that the district agreed to have us be a part of that process. And we were not a part of that process. So I was very upset about that. Then we talked about the attendance counselor title. We reviewed a copy of the legal decision received earlier this year that outlines that the title itself is not required in the district. However, the duties are required. Lastly, we did the QSAC district performance review. A committee will be formed with various stakeholders who will review our draft. A draft of our submission, and it will be discussed. The DPR will then be submitted to the board in December. Upcoming things that's happening is I would like to review the tenure charges in the next meeting, just so that we as a personnel committee, we're more familiar with that and we get ourselves in alignment with what it means to have local control back in personnel. The meeting was adjourned at 6:27 p.m.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carter, are you going to be on for the entire meeting?
Yes, I'm going to try.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Are there any questions? Any questions for Committee Chair Carter?
Ms. Carter, what was the date of the committee meeting?
November 10th.
Okay.
I don't, Tony, I'm not sure if someone's there to answer the question, or if any of you all remember, in terms of did the district agree that we would be a part of the process for selecting this charter school policy person?
Good evening again, everyone. I'm sorry to cut you off, Madam Chair, but Ms. Carter, I believe, not that I believe, but yes, that was a part of the discussion, and we did get a consensus on that.
Okay, so is anyone,
So
I don't know who's there, but could someone please give us an explanation as to why this process happened without board members?
Can someone address that?
Sorry, I can speak to that since I'm ultimately the hiring manager for that position. My apologies if that was the board's takeaway. I believe the consensus that we took away, what the board was interested in it. At this point, given that there is a job offer out, I'm happy to, if the candidate accepts, I'm happy to have the board meet this candidate, or excuse me, this individual as soon as this individual has started, so that they understand can have a conversation with this individual about the roles if that's what they're interested in doing.
So,
I believe that.
So,
May I add to that? I think what we should do here is that we should let the candidate know that we need to suspend the offer and allow the candidate to be interviewed by the individuals as we indicated that we did. I apologize for the misunderstanding.
So, thank you for that. It was expressed at the
Thank
meeting
you.
that the board members can participate. I just think that let's just be sure that we know that there are guidelines around that participation. So we just have to be sure we follow those and that process should take place, because that is what was said to board members.
Noted, we will follow up accordingly.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Motion.
Motion to accept?
Second. Mr. Padilla, a second? Okay, this is moved by Vice Chair Fonseca, second by Mr. Padilla. This is the motion to accept the Personnel Committee meeting of November 10th. That's delivered by Ms. Carter via telephone. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, motion carries. Report accepted.
Thank you. And our final committee report for this evening will be the Finance Committee report by Committee Chair Fonseca.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We had our meeting last night. The duration of our meeting was 2 hours. Present was Ms. Tony, Ms. Carter, Tave, myself, and on the district's behalf was Ms. Wilson, Ms. Robinson, and Mr. Canella. As usual, we discuss every item that's on the agenda. We go through each item individually. Two of the important items that were discussed were agenda items 10.7, the SIG grant, and also 10.8, which is the No Child Left Behind as a revised application resolution. And so we discussed what those resolutions entailed. Most importantly, when we were discussing the No Child Left Behind funds, we asked questions as to how are those funds allocated and who makes those decisions. We were informed that it's given by the federal government and then the state decides how those funds will be allocated. We did ask as a group, how can we increase this number? Because we know we have such a large district, and according to Ms. Wilson, under the Title I funding, the way that number can definitely be increased is if all students in the district complete their lunch applications. That's very key because you're able to tell the type of students we're servicing, and that'll increase the funding in the future. So we also discussed on ways to inform parents or give them better opportunities to complete the forms, because this year we didn't do too well. We're only at a 69%, which is not a high number. And one of the things that we did discuss, they did say that everything is done on the computer and that there's computers available for parents to complete them. You can also do it on your smartphone. they are going to send like letters in children's backpack. One of the suggestions were for kids to put it in their homework, for the teachers to put it in the kids' homework folders, because they're able to identify every single child that did not submit it. We asked that there be an aggressive push on the district's end on getting those forms completed, because it'll be beneficial across the board to the district and servicing our children. So that's something really important that we must continue to work on and definitely push as we move forward. And on the SIG grant, if there's any questions, I'll let Ms. Wilson answer them, because she was going to get some information together on that as to how much money that grant was going to be and why we're getting it again today. We were also informed that in addition to the regular agenda items, we were also informed that the NFL donated $2,000 to 2 schools. At least it's something. So I said, that's great. You know, we're getting something for the kids. We can buy something, footballs or something. We also discussed that, we also went over the QSAC and the DPR stuff that we need to submit in December. They're going to give us a full report in December, which is very important. As a committee, we discussed making sure that whoever's going to go through everything, like everything that's going to be submitted, that it's actually reviewed thoroughly, like a mock trial prior to being submitted. And we were informed by Ms. Wilson that that'll definitely take place. We did stress the fact that we want to make sure those mock trials take place so that there's nothing missing when it's submitted and we don't have issues with QSAC results coming in as we work towards local control. The last thing we discussed is the CAFR report will be given to the finance. Well, there's going to be a thorough report given to the finance committee next month. And also we asked that on next month's agenda, we discuss union negotiations. We do know that that's something that's in place that can't be openly discussed, but we do want an update on that because we want to get that issue resolved. So we ended our meeting. If I can answer any questions, I'd be more than glad to. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the finance
Yes,
report?
Board Chair.
Yes, Ms. Owens.
The lunch application completion, do we know the numbers for like the last few years? So how does 69% fare to the last few years?
Ms. Wilson?
Ms. Wilson, if I may, I can't speak to the numbers, but I can speak to part of, and I'm sure people in the community remember, you know, for the past few years, some people have been very irate and have come up to the mic about the district not feeding everyone, not feeding, you know, students who didn't have the lunch application in. And now the district is feeding everyone, but the lunch applications return is down. So before Ms. Wilson speaks, I just want to say I think the district has to make a concerted effort. I'm not saying why, I'm just saying what the facts are. And what I'm saying, I'm not going to go back and forth. What I'm saying is I think that we have to be creative in communicating to our friends and neighbors who have children in the district that there's money attached to completing the application, even though the children are still being fed. That there's every application that is returned needs money for the district, for the students.
Ms. Owens, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Ms. Owens, in response to your question, right now we are missing about 11,000 lunch applications for this school year. We are at a 75% free or reduced lunch eligibility, and we need to make a push on these lunch applications that are missing. We are going to be making some efforts to make outreach to families in terms of getting information out to them saying that we do not have a lunch application on file for their students. It's going to involve schools, it's going to involve some of the community engagement specialists, and it's going to involve our making an outreach through Blackboard Connect and the ways in which we can connect with parents. Mail in this district, it has not been a successful endeavor to get in touch with parents, because we do not actually have accurate addresses in our database, and there's a lot of motility within our population. In comparison to prior years, we've been as low as 3,000 applications missing. So we really have some work to do this year, and based on lunch applications, free or reduced child in terms of aid is worth about $5,000 in additional aid between Title I, E-rate, and other pieces, as well as the financial impact on the food services department, feeding students and not being able to claim appropriate reimbursement.
Ms. Wilson?
Thank you.
I have a
Ms.
question.
Gaddy had her hand up, and then Mr. Padilla.
I was just going to say, last year I was one of those parents, and when I came to get the report card for my son, they had my name. I couldn't pick it up. I had to go into a room, get on the computer, and fill out the application. That's what happened last year. I mean, I completed this year. But that's something that you need to consider.
Thank you. Ms. Gaddy, that's something Ms. Gaddy, that is something we've tried in the past. We've had conversations with a number of principals. We've put incentives out there this year. I will tell you that no school was able to complete or collect 100% of their applications this year.
Thank you. Mr. Padilla.
Ms. Wilson? Ms. Wilson? When you mentioned the 5,000, is that per student?
That's on average for a student who's classified as free, because remember that child's eligible for Title I funding. Any kind of determination for aid for a child is made based on a poverty need. The poverty need is determined by the lunch application.
So on the 11,000 students, do we know how many of these students would qualify for that?
We're about 75% free and reduced now.
Okay.
So if you just used a mathematical calculation and applied the 75% to the 11,000,
Okay.
you could say that you could increase your numbers somewhere between
significant.
7,000 to 8,000
Okay, thank you.
kids.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
What percentage of that uncompleted lunch applications are high school students?
I don't have that number with me, but I can find out for you.
Okay, so now to follow up on that question, would it be a possibility that also because, for these low applications being turned in could be caused by our high truancy rate in terms of students not coming back to school?
I'm not going to say that wouldn't contribute to it, but it does not lead to the amount of applications that we see missing this year.
Okay.
So,
Madam-
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I have another question.
Yes, Mr. Padilla.
Ms. Wilson, do we have a deadline as to when this has to be submitted?
Typically, lunch applications are to be submitted, and the food services deadline is October 1st, that you begin to use the new eligibility for students. The lunch application is also important in what is called the October 15th snapshot. So we have to make an effort. That report is finalized somewhere between middle to the end of December. We have to make an effort to capture lunch applications for students who were on roll prior to October 15th. So we have a couple of weeks, and that's where we're going to make the effort.
Thank you.
Ms. Tony?
Yes.
Just to follow up on what Donald said, that question was raised at last night's meeting. Like, did we know, like, by grade level and whatnot? After they make this next push to try to get what we can at this point, we will get final details on that, just so we know how to address this major concern for next year, because we do know how it'll benefit, later on. So we'll make sure to disseminate that information to everyone once we get it, so we can see like a clear picture of what we need to address mainly in like grade level.
Right now, principals just received a report effective November 1st, which basically tells them every child in their building, what the status of that child is, whether or not that child submitted an application, if they're free, if they're reduced, if they're paid, and the other category would be denied no app, which means they know by grade level, by class, by student, which child has not submitted a lunch application?
And just one last question. Our calculations are per child or per family?
Per child.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there a motion to accept the report?
Ms. Gaddy, second. Ms. Owens on the second. This is a motion to accept the Finance Committee report as delivered by Vice Chair Fonseca. The committee met on November 14th. It was moved by Ms. Gaddy and second by Ms. Owens. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries. Report accepted.
Thank you. We will now move to item 5 on the agenda, which is the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, members of the community. I appreciate very much the opportunity to be with you this evening. And I want to particularly thank the members of the Community Engagement and Parent Involvement Committee. Our topic at the forthcoming meeting, which I will quickly highlight today, is to talk about our efforts in the realm of community engagement and outreach. But I say that with some humility in that we appreciate that there are significant areas of improvement, and we look forward to the continuing advice, counsel, and direction of the committee that has made that its absolute priority. So if you could switch pages, please. So I do want to say, again, within the context of our acknowledgement of the need for continued improvement, that over the last 15 to 16 months, we as a district have made this a rather extraordinary priority in terms of our focus, our resources, our effort, and our staff. I want to pay a real compliment to Margarita Munoz for her efforts in this area, to Paul Nadeau and his team for their efforts in this regard. You've heard me say, well, Madam Chair, I await your direction. We'll find out. We will find out. We will find out. It's a door alarm. It's not a fire alarm.
It was the door, it's fine.
It's not a fire alarm, ladies and gentlemen. It is a door alarm, and it is now stopped. So thank you for your. Well, you were ready to go. I apologize, Mr. Padilla. So what I want to say is that over the last 15 months, we have made a concerted effort, and I was in the midst of thanking Ms. Muniz and Mr. Doe and their teams for their work in this regard. I have said many times before that one of the real challenges in this work is that there are so many positive and good things happening and so little coverage of that, and so much work needs to go into not only identifying but disseminating the extraordinary things that our educators are doing and are accomplishing. As I've heard the mayor say more than once, if something terrible happens, it's above the fold headline news. If great things happen to some of our students or some of our teachers' accomplishments, some of our educators' accomplishments, it's hard to find any reporter. So several things just to quickly note. Over the course of the last year, we held 21 community events in every ward in the form of enrollment fairs, multiple strategic planning meetings, community talks. The Title I conference was a huge success, and it is about to happen again, the end of the year barbecue. I'm grateful for those of you who were able to attend. We have the actual rosters, or the numbers rather, for those, but thousands upon thousands of parents and community members have attended these events, and we're very pleased to continue those. I do want to say that we have not cracked the code for effectively getting the word out for these events between announcements here, announcements at the public board meeting, which are televised, between the web page, between our increased use of social media at the direction of some members of this board and some suggestions from the public. We have substantially increased, and I say this as a person of the last century, our Twitter and our Facebook presence in this regard. We have put the word out through schools, through backpacks, through messages, through, on occasion, announcements on television, et cetera. I think we all would like to see a broader and deeper level of participation in events from members of the public, and we stand eager to learn and get your advice about how to do that. But please know that it has been and continues to be a priority and a focus of the Newark Public Schools. We have also, and I believe we will be in a position to actually hand out notebooks or make available as they are online, organized in the last year literally 100 press releases about positive school events, many of which members of this board have participated in. And just in comparison, in the prior year, there was just a handful, 10 to 15 in past years. This has generated lots of positive television coverage, lots of positive media coverage, multiple media. Again, I say this only as evidence of our shared commitment to expanded community engagement and so on, and as well as to trying to continue to focus the attention of the world on the good things that are happening in the Newark public schools. I also am cognizant that the strategic plan that was the subject of many of these meetings and is the appropriate object of focus for members of this board made very, very clear that there are specific metrics and milestones to be addressed in this area. One of those was to expand and better utilize partnerships. They have played a very significant role over the course of the last year. Community-based organizations in each ward have hosted strategic planning meetings. We're very grateful. I won't begin to list them, but we're very grateful for the partnerships and the support of community-based organization. A number of new partnerships have been announced. Each one, as you can imagine, is the fruit of a good deal of work and focus, but ultimately it is because of the contributions of our community partners. Several of you were present at the announcement of an expanded and very well-funded partnership with the NJPAC Arts Partnerships, the donation of instruments, after-schools program with New Jersey Devils, a very substantial, my very own library, resulting in as many as 10 books for a significant number of students to take home to themselves. We're very pleased with bedtime math, which I encourage. I'm going to just publicly say the idea that every parent can access a mathematics problem to do with their child every night, to go along with what I hope is a ritual of reading together every night, is something we are very much focused on. We continue to march forward with our Students to Science initiative, and so on. I do want to stress that part of the communications effort is simply to make information available. We have focused very hard on that. Data on the park, on special education, on attendance, on water, facilities remain available, and the website is up there. I think you know it. I won't read it out. I appreciate the work of Edward and his team in sponsoring the creation of a guidebook, inviting every school to do a video about whatever they think are their most important highlights and brag points, if you will. That is also available. So again, that is a significant area of focus. We will talk at the next board meeting, I hope together, around opportunities for improvement, some of the things that are underway, and to get your counsel and advice on that. And then lastly, I just want to say that if you can flip to page 11, please, that there is, as I mentioned, the Title I Parent Conference is coming up. Flyers will be by the door and online. We hope there is a broad participation in that. And flipping to page 13, here is just a reminder of the various ways to access information via the web, via social media, via a direct contact with the website for the particular school that is accessible both directly and through our website. So that is my report for this evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Board members, are there any questions for the superintendent? Any suggestions on this report before it's rolled out next week? Thank you. We will now move to item 6, review of the agenda for the public meeting. Board members, this is opportunity to ask any questions on our voting items, any questions that weren't addressed in the committee reports, questions that you may still have before we vote next week.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Jackson.
Just to inform the committee, the board, all facility items we saw no problems with, and we advise going forward with.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Owens.
Under the general counsel legal votes, I just wanted to get some clarity around 12.2 because actually in program instruction there were 5 or 6 policies that were presented before us, but as per a conversation with Dr. Perkins earlier this afternoon, I expressed that just the gender identity and expression policy be voted on because that's required as per our comprehensive equity plan and management plan. So I just wanted to get clarity exactly which policies we're voting on to approve to be revised.
I'll defer to Dr. Perkins. I think that he was going to honor your wishes, right? You were just going to move that one policy?
That's correct. Only the policy related to gender identification is going forward this month. All others are being pushed to December for review.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I have one addition.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Carter.
Hey, I didn't hear this part during the I lost service, so I have a question. I don't know if this is the proper place. I mentioned that I think it was program and instruction that Science High wanted to get some of their some things from the old Science High building. Hello?
Okay, no, I hear you. So right now, where we are, we were talking about approving the agenda for the next meeting, but is that something that can be?
Okay.
No,
I'm not sure. It depends. I would need some additional detail on that. I see Ms. Tierney's in the audience, and I will have that discussion with her and her team in order to determine. We vacated that building several years ago, and it was not our building to start with. We were leasing it. So I'm not sure what the condition of the building is and whether the items are in fact available. So if they are, we will make an effort.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Gaddy?
I had to jump off of the operations so that I can participate in the program and instruction because of the holiday. We had both meetings on the same day. So I just would need some clarification on the water treatment chemical service. You have it, Donna?
That's
And the tree trimming.
11.15.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I have the resolutions here. I'm going to share it with Ms. Gaddy.
Thank you.
Do you want, does that suffice, or do you want? Okay. Okay, thank you. Yes, Ms. Wilson.
Madam Chair, last night we discussed prescription benefits at the Finance Committee. It is to be added to the agenda and will be done by in time for next week's meeting. But I do have a copy of the resolution that I'd like to pass up to board members so they can consider between now and the meeting next week. So I'm asking that that be noted as an addition to the agenda, and I think it's going to be numbered 11.17.
Where is it? No.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Vice Chair Fonseca, I think, pointed out, Madam SBA, that it's 10.17 electronically, prescription health benefits.
Oh, it's 10.
It's on there?
Okay.
It's electronically on 10.17.
Oh, I don't.
Here.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Are we done? Passing this out? I'll take it.
So, realizing that the majority of the board is just getting this today, would it be helpful if you, if Ms. Wilson gave a brief description? Board members, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I have one copy back so I can at least look at it? This particular item. This particular item concerns the district's prescription health benefits. I will refresh the board's memory that back in earlier this year, we made an effort to move our prescription health benefits to Benicard, a new provider with a potential for cost savings, which would be used to help the district balance its budget. That contract is basically coming to an end. We have realized the actual savings that we anticipated, and there are some additional savings associated with rebates. We are now at the point where we need to renew that contract in order to receive those rebates and in order to have a contract in place. The problem is that the contract actually spans fiscal years. So you can't commit fiscally to a contract unless you have funds available. So this particular resolution will say that it will be subject to the availability of funds. So we're going to put it in place and have it cover through December 31st, 2017, subject to the availability of funds. What I will say for the board and note is that there's been an increase in the premiums for Benicard, but in comparison to the increase in the state health benefits plan, which we were participating in, there is a difference of almost 5 to 6% difference in the increase. So the district has been able to realize the anticipated savings and will continue to do so for the current term of the contract.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any other questions?
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, it's a motion to approve the agenda for the November 22nd, 16 meetings, moved by Mr. Jackson, second by Mr. Padilla. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, motion carries. Agenda approved.
Thank you. We now move to item 7 on our agenda, which is public participation. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we voted. I think she means electronically.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Laura, I'm gonna.
Is that right, Mr. Jones? Vote electronically, board members.
Okay, we now move to next item on our agenda, public participation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the public participation portion of the meeting. As a reminder, time limits for all speakers are enforced. There's no sharing or granting of speaking time to others. Speakers must be present when their name is called. All speakers are required to give their names and addresses. The public participation portion of this meeting is limited to 10 speakers, first come, first serve. Examples of unacceptable behavior that are not permitted include but not limited to naming district employees and engaging in personal attacks, slurs, excessive loudness, calling out, yelling, generally disruptive behavior, attempting to disrupt the meeting, or inciting others to do so. Public participation at board meetings is intended to allow individual members of the public the opportunity to address the board and the administration on issues of public concern, not as a forum for two-way dialogue with the board members or district officials. The superintendent designee or Madam Chair may respond to questions either at the end of the session or responses may be provided at a later time. The superintendent or chair may interrupt any speaker or terminate any individual's speaking privilege if the speaker's comments are disruptive or obscene. An individual may be cautioned that a personally directed statement may be slanderous or defaming, and the individual may be liable for his or her statements. Attempts to hijack or filibuster the proceedings, repeated interrupting or badgering the board members or district officials, repetitive and truculent speech, or disregard of rules of decorum will not be tolerated and may subject the individual or group to removal from the meeting. If necessary, the meeting may be adjourned.
Thank you. First speaker, Nia Blady Otu, I think it is.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Ni Ablade Ajoga Otu.
Thank you.
I reside at 62 Haddon Terrace, Newark, New Jersey. Is there any other information you need before I?
No, sir.
Basically, I'm here. I think that committee member Owen and also the committee member who was on the phone, Ms. Carter, preface this. The reason why I'm here is because we want to. I'm a parent at Science Park High School. I have a son who's a junior, but my relationship with Science Park goes way back when they were in the original building. Being that the original building is going to be demolished to create a high-rise residential complex, we would like to retrieve some of the reliefs and motifs in the original building and bring them into the new building, just to serve as a continuum of the history of Science Park High School and its tradition. Many people know, or maybe they don't know, that even though the original building wasn't in the best shape, the students there performed exceptionally, a tradition that continues in the new building that they're in. So we are asking for your cooperation in helping us to figure out a way to get the reliefs and motifs and different things that are embedded in the walls in different places before they demolish the building. In my culture, once again, I'm a lifelong Newark resident. Even though I'm not an alumni of Science High School, I'm an alumni of Arts High School. My son presently goes to Science High. And I want to be able to have the continuum of history continue and not have the students that are there now or that continue to be there think that Science High was always like this. There's always been a struggle one way or another. So bringing the motifs and different reliefs from that building into the new building will be a great help. Some courses of action, and again, I'm thinking off the top of my head, the development company that is doing it is affiliated with Shaquille O'Neal. Maybe they could do it before their demolition as a goodwill. So, that's something that we can try to get done. It may not cost any money. It will be good publicity for their company. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson, do you know who the building belongs to?
That building was originally owned by the city, as the gentleman indicated. I'm sure the ownership has been transferred, but we have had a relationship with Mr. O'Neill in the past, and we'll exercise some discussion. We'll also need your help, Chair, with the city in terms of helping facilitate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your suggestion.